Casey Willis and Matt Thompson are the executive producers, and Mr. Willis is the showrunner of FXX's hilarious animated series Archer, which will be returning for its 11th season later this year. And they both join me today. I'm Charlie Bright of Gold Derby. And Casey, the first question is to you, and I have to ask, what can we expect to see on the show now that Sterling is finally out of his coma?
It's going to be great because there's going to be lots of returns to things that you have wanted to see Archer do in a while, but also he's been out of it for 3 years. So there's a lot of, the world's gone on without him, and his muscles have atrophied in that time. So he's got a little cane that he walks around with now. And I think it's going to be, it's going to be really fun to see him in those situations that the Archer fans know and love, but with a completely different perspective.
And do you have anything to add on that, Matt, or that Casey's leaving out?
It's a blast. We as a group really, really, really enjoyed making the coma seasons. It's nice to wake up every day and say, okay, you're a parrot, you're a rock monster, and you're a Nazi. Great, everybody ready? Let's go. That's free, and it allows you to tell stories that you wouldn't have been able to do. But then there's no place like home, man. And it feels like you're putting on your old favorite jacket that you found, and it just feels good, and it feels right, and it feels like everything's great, but it still has just enough of a twist that it also feels new. I think the overriding thought, Casey, that you and I talked about was going into the season is we want this to feel like season 3 of Archer. And that's what we wanted, like a visceralness to it, a going to faraway places and coming back on a mission type of thing. And I think that the team has done that, and I'm excited for people to see it.
And I'm actually curious about something. So I know Adam Reed's no longer the writer on the show, but will we still hear him as Miss Gillette?
Yeah, I think he got through recording his last one last week.
Yeah, last week we recorded him, and he's great and fine voice as always. And he's
yes. My Ray Gillette impersonation of Adam.
I actually, with Aisha, she organized a table read for charity a couple weeks ago, and I did my Ray Gillette impression, which I will not. No. It was just like, hey, y'all. I don't know what it was. Living in Atlanta, it's an easy pull for a lot of us to be like, oh, we know that guy.
Besides voicing Ray, I will say that Adam had a really good heavy hand in the beginning of the season about helping say, these are what I think that these 8 episodes should be about. Mm-hmm. Not all of that survived, but I want to say 50 to 60% of it did, Casey. There was a lot of the things that you and he talked about at the start of the season that really helped form the season.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of the episode ideas and story ideas. And what was weird is I remembered this episode of Growing Pains, and I referenced it when I was talking to Adam about it, and he knew exactly the episode I was talking about. There was just the very beginning of the episode, Mike Seaver misses the bus, and he was watching TV, turns the TV off, goes out to get the bus. 10 seconds later, he walks back in, turns the TV back on, and the TV has progressed without him. And he's so self-centered, he can't understand that when he turns the television off, it just doesn't stop, that it actually still progresses. And so we talked about that a lot. And then that's kind of how Archer felt when he stepped back into the world, like, wait, those 3 years, you guys weren't just staying by my side and waiting for me to wake up. They actually went out and lived their lives. So that was a shock to him, shock to his system.
It's a beautiful, true story, but I also like to think this season of Archer is based on an opening of Growing Pains. It's like the best headline while watching your cartoon show, Kate. The Growing Pains story. Let's get the Seavers in here.
I can't believe, we didn't get Alan Thicke. Missed opportunity.
We just got our headline on that one. So, the show's entering its 11th season, and I'm curious. I mean, the part of Archer coming out of the coma might have actually assisted this, but have you found it difficult at all to keep the story feeling fresh, or has this new aspect of Sterling coming out of the coma really helped in that, or has it always been fairly easy to do?
I'd like to say that for me, the coma seasons and this Archer season, they all feel slightly different, but still the same. There's only a little bit of change because it's still all really and truly the same group of people. But I think that the effort that we make in our guiding principle is kind of like, we don't want to change it so much that you don't feel like it's the people that you come to know and love and want to hang out with. But if they stay completely stagnant, why am I watching? I feel like I need that small hook to wrap my head around why this matters right now. That is always what Kate Lambert, our wonderful executive at FX, is always like, why now? Why are you telling this story now? What is this? Why do we have to do it? And this little thing that, the great Seaver hook, as I like to call it now, it really, you put that underneath everybody and him waking up, and it propels everything. Yeah, we're still going to go to a far-off land and shoot a dude in the head, but it's slightly changed because time has moved on, and the agency is now telling Archer, hey, we don't kill people anymore. We don't do that. And he goes, I think that the line is like, can't correct me, Casey. Hey, what fun is, why is it a license to kill? It's not a license to go to sleep. What did I made? Yeah. What's the line?
Not a license to injure or something like that. Yeah, I can't remember exactly.
Those small changes slightly shift the dynamics of each character, slightly shift the dynamics so you're not watching the same old story of the week. That applies to the coma season and applies to this season, and I love that.
Yeah, I think to add to what Matt's saying, a cool thing was in the coma seasons, we had Archer in the first two, in Dreamland and Danger Island. Archer was meeting Lana for the first time. And, in the first episode of the series of Archer, Lana and Archer already had an established relationship. And in fact, you learn that they were together, but now they're really not. And then, so to explore him meeting her for the first time, that was very interesting. And then in Archer 1999, we're like, okay, well, we don't want them to meet again this time. Okay, this time they've already gone through their entire relationship, and now they're divorced and they're sharing this spaceship together, this business together. How does that work? So those were interesting to play with. And now in season 12, there's going to be other interesting developments between Archer and Lana that are going to be very surprising to people.
Oh, nice eyebrows. I like it.
eyebrows. So Casey, I'm curious, you're coming in now as the showrunner for the series, and I'm curious, what has the transition been like between having Adam as the showrunner for all these years and now having the duties on yourself for that?
It was a easy transition, I would say, because I think
job for 11 years. He's got it.
Yeah. Well, Adam is a great teacher, and he and Matt as well. Yes. But a lot of the stuff is just things that I've been doing for quite a long time. The things that Adam would give me, or I learned from Matt and Adam both how to do voiceover directing. That is something that I learned from them. And then just really the biggest difference was just not having those Adam scripts and knowing what Adam wanted all the time. So then Adam was just like, okay, it's yours now. You're driving the car. You make those decisions. So working with him and working with Matt and figuring out the story ideas, and then working with outside writers has been the biggest change, I think, for us. Wouldn't you agree, Matt?
Yeah.
And just,
Adam has innate ability to like, I've got an idea, and he'll go, and there's a perfect script like 5 days later.
Yeah.
And even being professional writers do not do that. And so it's a challenge. And we've got a great cast of writers with us this year, and I'm just so excited about each and every one of them. And I think we've been really lucky to get them on board. But as great as they are, you can't replace the one-man human typing dynamo.
Mm-hmm.
You have to replace one man with five. Well, four and one woman. Mm-hmm. Is it four or is it five?
Hold on. Let me make sure. Yeah.
It's somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So, I keep on, coming back to, the fact that, it still, it feels just like yesterday that I discovered this show, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, that was 11 years ago. I mean, is there anything about being a part of the show that you both still find surprising now that the show has been on for a decade?
How interesting it is, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, so it's going to be kind of a rehash, I guess, but how interesting it is that I know these people so well. I can hear each one of them so distinctly. They have very, very distinct personalities. I know that if I read a sentence, I can tell you who the character was that it came out of their mouth because it only belongs to them. And that's Adam Reed's gift, that he made these people so distinct. But what I love about each one going forward is, like I alluded to earlier, you make one shift and you make it affect the whole group psychologically, and you can tell brand new stories inside of that same old box that you love. And I love finding that shift, and we like to now eventually again refer to it as the Seaver shift.
For me, I think it's the stories that we're telling, and working with the writers is exciting, but also just the cast still being great and just hitting home runs every time they're up at the mic is fantastic, and they're always surprising us with lines and ideas. And then also big thanks and big surprises always come from our talented team of artists and animators. When you're doing a show for this long, I always think about The Simpsons. When you go back and look at some old Simpsons, and you see how those drawings and everything has kind of evolved. And I love that we have done similar evolutions in Archer, and the artists and animators just always step up to the plate and kill it every single time. And Archer 1999 was a very difficult season because sci-fi is such a wide open genre, and them to come up with these ideas and these drawings were incredible. But then when we came back to Archer, it was just as challenging as the sci-fi season to be like, okay, we're going back to Archer, we're going back to New York. How do we make these drawings fresh and these ideas fresh, and how are we going to convey that? And they did a great job.
And I'm also curious. I'm always curious about how writers write for different characters. And I'm curious, is there a particular character that you enjoy writing lines for? Like you just love coming up with what's going to come out of their mouths?
I feel bad sometimes for the rest of the cast because Pam and Krieger get the best written lines. Krieger from the House of Weirdos and Pam from the I got no cares in the world. They're just fun, and so they get the best opportunities. And then conversely, I always feel like some characters have to drive story more, and they got to tell a little piece of business, and so they don't get those shiny baubles of words. What do you think, Case?
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's Pam is always somebody that if you have a weird story from your childhood, or maybe your friend one time did something so stupid or said something so idiotic, and you remember it, and you're like, you know what, Pam could say this and really pull it off. So I enjoy that. But I think I would add to the Pam and Krieger is Mallory. Just the cuttingness of her lines sometimes are just so perfect, but Jessica's always able to deliver it with almost like an air of sweetness. So you're like, oh, she just eviscerated me, but I don't feel bad. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Matt and Casey. We wish you all the best for this upcoming season and this Emmy season. And to all our viewers, please like this video, subscribe to our channel to get all our latest content, and don't forget to go to goldderby.com and use the Gold Derby app to make your predictions and see if you can outsmart the top prognosticators in Hollywood. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.